Today I'm going to be talking about the meaning of big data. Big data is not just about being spied on 24/7, although that's actually happening. Big data is really about more people basically publishing more theories that they claim are supported by data. And that means more confusion and less clarity. So in this age of big data, more than ever before, we're going to need to think about the data in front of us. In the year 2000, CDC announced a set of goals for America. Every one of the 50 states is supposed to bring the obesity rate down to below 15%, which basically means all the dots on this chart has to go below the green line. That's a pretty ambitious goal. So how many of these states actually succeeded in reaching this target 10 years later? The answer to that is a big fat zero. No states did. So there's no way to put this other than to say this is the Titanic. So the medical community was very embarrassed, and then they were thinking about what's wrong. And in the last few years, some doctors said they figured out what the problem is. It's not how much food we're eating. It's not what we're eating. They say it's how we measure obesity. So here's a generic fat guy. So we can measure his height, measure his weight, put it into a calculator, and out comes this number called the BMI. And if the BMI is over 30, he is considered fat. Now, what makes the doctors really annoyed is this white curve that I'm going to show you right here. So they are actually okay with the right side of this curve where the BMI is greater than 30, where you see that the higher the BMI, the higher the rate of the risk of mortality. What really annoyed them is the left side of this curve, where this positive correlation disappears. So there are actually some people that they would consider overweight, and their risk of mortality is actually lower than the people who are normal weight. So because this linear relationship doesn't apply, they say, let's kind of throw this out, throw this whole BMI out, because it just doesn't work. So get rid of that calculator. No weighing scale, no measuring tape, and what they want is instead give us radiation. So this bone scanner, they say, is able to measure our actual body fat content directly. So I went and looked at some studies and see what the numbers are saying, and what I can conclude from that study is that this new metric is going to move that 30 cutoff point to 25. So my bet is this is not going to make us less fat. This is sort of an example of don't trust the people's data analysis without actually looking at the story behind it. About a few weeks ago, I came back from San Antonio from another talk, and when the plane landed at LaGuardia, we were stranded on the tarmac for a whole hour. So I was thinking, how do we actually measure which airline is more punctual? It turns out that there are massive data sets out there that have been collected, and some years ago, America West could say that they were the West Coast on-time champion. It turns out that at the same time, its chief rival, Alaska Airlines, can also make the same claim, but in reverse. Alaska would say, if you fly into any of the 5 major West Coast airports, we're going to take you there first. So who is lying here? It turns out that nobody's lying. It turns out that that same data set literally do support both of these statements. This is the statistical equivalent of saying agreeing to disagree. So one of my favorite books is Moneyball by Michael Lewis, which has been made into a Brad Pitt movie. And the key tension in this movie is between the baseball manager, the young dude played by Brad Pitt, who is supposed to be obsessed with using data to make decisions, pitted against the old guard, which are the baseball scouts, who relied on the gut instincts and experience. And in the book, data triumphed over intuition. Based on my own experience managing data teams for a lot of years, it turns out that great instincts is actually needed to do great data analysis. And in this age of big data, we have to think about the data before we do anything. Thank you.